Hey CSU, welcome to our Week 9 video. Quick question, throw your hands up, I might be able to see it, but let's do it anyway. Who's ever heard of the show Happy Endings? I wouldn't be surprised if not many people. One of the main reasons it was, heaps of reasons the show wasn't successful as seen, was because when it first aired in the States and then when it aired here, episodes were airing out of order. So episode 4 went before episode 2, then went to episode 9, then I think they did 3, and then it was just really all over the place. So this story about this group of friends who are trying to come to terms with a couple within the friendship group breaking up, and then they're getting back together, and then they're broken up again. It was just completely, absolutely impossible to follow, and it really made the show suffer. And the show took a long time to recover, probably never really did, and was kind of cancelled early. It's really one of those, you had one job. Like, surely that's someone's job at the TV network or the production company that just make sure the episodes go in order. They're numbered. It's not that difficult to process. Anyway, I'm still a little bitter that Happy Endings got cancelled because I thought it was a decent show, but I'm going to move on. When I worked, as most of you know, I did like a bit of acting for a time, and the couple of occasions where I was on bigger productions, bigger film sets, you'd notice that there was like one, maybe two people whose entire job was continuity. His entire job was to make sure that how something looked in the scene before or in the shot before, when you changed camera angles, things looked the same. For instance, as a character walks into a big building, the external shot of the building might not be the same building once they get inside. Those shots from the person walking into the building to the person being shot inside the building might be shot weeks apart. So you need someone to be able to remind the actor and the director that when they went into the building, they were carrying their briefcase in their left hand and they had their umbrella hooked over their arm, and they had the hat on, or did they have the hat off, or what length was their hair, these things, so that it doesn't jar when we cut to the inside and they look completely different. So you had these people's entire job was just to check the continuity, just to know that. So basically what I'm saying is continuity matters. Continuity counts. And I want to introduce that as a kind of a guiding star to Jesus talk. So I've been thinking a bit about how do we talk about Jesus, and I never want to be too prescriptive, and it's an evolving thing, and it's a thing based in story and based in our experience as well as the tradition, but I wanted to introduce a couple of guiding stars as it might work. The things that, if you're not going to keep this in mind when you talk about Jesus, you better have a very good reason. And the first one is the continuity of Jesus. So that talk about Jesus that removes him from or disconnects him from or puts him in conflict with or in direct opposition to his Jewish past, his Jewish situatedness, his Jewish upbringing, and his Jewish practice is problematic. Problematic to say the least. It actually can be really damaging. Jesus was a Jew. And so that is the continuity we have to remember. That when we speak of Jesus, we speak of someone who is in this continuum of the Jewish story, who was shown through the Gospels to be Jewish observant, to observe Jewish rites of passage, to go to temple rituals, to engage in the high holidays, all these kind of things. He was an Torah observant. He was a Jew from birth through his life. And not only was Jesus a Jew, but also the Gospel writers are very important to point out how Jesus' story and Jesus' importance and what Jesus was there to do is connected with the story of Israel, is connected with the story of the Jewish people. There is nothing in there which is trying to separate him out other than maybe make him the fulfillment, and nothing that puts him over and against. The reason this is important is because we can see both within the church and beyond the church tendencies to remove Jesus from this Jewish background. It was way worse in the past. Historical Jesus scholarship has helped restore it a little. It's no longer that controversial to say Jesus is a Jew or Jesus was a Jew. But the fact that Jesus is usually a blonde-haired white man in paintings is problematic, of showing how every now and again we lose that continuity. But we even see it in the way that sometimes preachers can talk about how different Jesus was from Judaism, and how we set up these kind of false dichotomies between law and grace, not realizing that the law was a gift to the Jewish people. And we kind of have these kind of ways of thinking which really puts Jesus almost against Judaism. And it comes from outside the church too. Elizabeth Farrelly, she writes for the Sydney Morning Herald sometimes, and she writes about Jesus occasionally. She's an architecture critic by trade, but she writes interestingly enough. And she wrote a piece about how Jesus, kind of came along and replaced the old tribal ways with a new way of love and grace. That Jesus was somehow this guy who was completely removed from his context. He was just like this guy who just plopped down, was not influenced by his situation at all, and then just kind of showed, hey, forget all that old stuff, this is the new way. And it's just wrong. And ignoring this continuity is what is responsible for a lot of Christian anti-Semitism and a lot of the violence that Christians have inflicted upon Jewish people. So continuity is important to remember. And also what is exciting is it opens up a lot of ways to read the text, a lot of ways to understand Jesus' teachings, a lot of ways to understand Jesus' self-identity, the way the community was formed. It opens up a lot, and that's hopefully what we can get into in groups. But I think tapping into that continuity, acknowledging it, is just vitally important. And so something we're going to look at this week. The other side of continuity, I'm not going to go into that too much, but again, we can see this more so from outside of the church, is that the continuity, maybe they'll admit the continuity goes backwards. Yep, Jesus was this Jewish guy, but they won't believe there's any continuity going forward, that the church is completely out of continuity with Jesus, that it took something and just went in a completely different direction. We're going to explore a little bit how that is a bit of a flawed idea too. And while sure theological concerns took place and influenced the writing of Scripture, but it is incorrect to say that the church just went in their completely own direction after Jesus died. So these are kind of some ideas we're going to be looking at, this idea of Jesus and his continuity as the first of our guiding stars for talking about Jesus. We're going to hit up a few more in coming weeks, but I'll save that for then. So see you around, and yeah, have a good weekend.